just having positive affirmations, for each other. Um, like I said, it all starts with you. Hmm.
You are listening to the B Lifestyle Radio Show. If you have called in, if not, you are listening to us at www.thehilltopradioshow.org. So if you want to jump into this conversation, though, feel free to give us a call. Um, Give us a call, and if you have, and just jump right on in. We are a open forum, but we are respectful of each other's comments. We are respectful of each other's opinions, and nobody. I'm gonna say this definitively. Nobody has all the answers. So we are discussing, and if you are listening online and you want to jump in the conversation, give us a call at 609-663-5493. That's 609-663-5493. And jump right on in here. Well, tonight we are bringing back, because we didn't finish last week, our conversation, he said, she said, understanding the differences in how men and women communicate. And you know how we do on this show, we get to talking and we might go out and then back in. So we wanted to bring this conversation back. Last week we talked about nature versus nurture. Are men and women wired differently, or do we learn different styles? And there was a lot of good points that took place last week. And hopefully this week we will have more good conversation, more insight, and more understanding of why and how men and women communicate differently. So, Antonio, did we were talking about last week, because we had been reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything that, you thought about since last week?
Any questions or any ideas?
Or anything that, came to your mind based on our conversation from last week, our communications?
I guess in keeping in line with what we were talking about, I think, I don't know, I guess on my my Instagram algorithm, because I subscribe and I look at a lot of...
You sound far away.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? Still sound muffled?
It just sounds far away.
Okay. What about now?
That's a little bit better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's better.
Mm-hmm.
No, as I continue to scurry through social media and the news and, constantly hearing, the different conversations surrounding men and women, relationships, and the various conversations. My thing is, I always go back to this at the end of the day, beyond all that's being talked about. There's a need for healing, on behalf of the man and the woman, or the male and the female, or, as it relates to relationships. I think, to me, it all boils down to that, with all the information, with all the conversation, with all the good information, with all the tips, and the advice. At the end of the day, I think it's, the beginning of being empowered, becoming better, becoming stronger, understanding each other better. It's healing, and that's I think individually and collective, as a unit, as a couple, So for me, I think that's what I always go back to. So yeah. You, babe, you. I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Okay, let me tell y'all about the problems I had today. This is not the compute. This is not the I don't know what's going on, but I had some interference in getting on today and tonight. So please bear with me. So for Tori, we were talking last week about the differences in men and women's communication. And you're married. What do you think about men and women's communication? Are we wired differently, or are we taught to communicate differently? What's your opinion?
To me, it could be a bit of both. But I'm gonna just say off of my experience, I think we just wired differently. It just
Hmm.
depends on, who it is. But for me, we're definitely wired different. But it's not in a way, it's not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not a bad thing, but it can cause some type of miscommunication. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
for me and my husband, that's one of the things we kind of deal with now. And I mean, we're working on it, but that was
Mm-hmm.
the issue we were having, because it's like whenever he says something, you know, different ears perceive things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll say something to me, and in the way I heard it, it sounds like this. Whereas,
Right.
yeah, right. And
Right.
and, and
Mm-hmm.
so what I used to do was I used to just react, because
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you're trying to attack me. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
he's like, well, no, it's not that. It's just that, I'm saying this, that, and the other, but it's the way you sound. So just using that for an example, that's why I say we're pretty much wired differently. But a lot of times we end up saying the same damn thing. That's the crazy
That's true.
part.
That's
We end
good.
up saying the same thing, but just being able to understand your partner, even with the flaws, and what I don't want to call them flaws, but even with what's going on, you know, I still think it can work. But yeah, in
I,
my opinion, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I cut you off. My apologies. Yeah.
It's okay. But in my opinion, I think it could work. I think it could. It's just that, the on each other's part. Are you willing to, work on it? Or are you willing to accept? You know what I'm saying? It just depends. But like,
I
go ahead.
when you were talking, I had a question spring up. Do you? And I'm asking you and my wife,
Hmm.
and any other women that may be on. Is there a possibility, like with the so when you talk about tone differences in mostly, in male and female voices,
Hmm.
right? The
Hmm.
fact that a male has typically, has more, because of testosterone, has more of a deeper voice and is more of a voice carries
Hmm.
in most instances. Is it possible just because of the frequency in which that exists that because it's heavier that it could be misconstrued if a lot of times that I'm fussing or that I'm coming across in a particular way just because of the tonal differences. Is that possible? I don't know.
I I really think so. I think you just hit something. I think you
Mm-hmm,
really just said something, because I never looked at it like that. That's crazy. I
mm-hmm,
never looked at it like that, but I think that is possibly what it is, because that's something we used to discuss in voice when I
mm-hmm.
was in school.
Okay.
It was all about the frequency a lot of time. So yeah,
Mm.
I think maybe that does have something to do with it. Yeah, because
What
that's
about
what it
you?
was for me. It sound
Mm-hmm,
like it always
mm-hmm.
sound like you're
It
saying
was
this.
right.
Hmm. Hmm.
What
Mm.
I definitely can agree to to some respect about like resonance and tone. But then I think
Resonance.
about
Yeah.
my dad, and my dad, who I talk about a whole lot on the show all the time. My dad had a serious bass
Hmm.
resonance,
Hmm.
and I knew the difference between him being harsh and because he was very, very careful on how he was careful about how he used his words, what he said, and how he said them. And so I don't know if all the years of dealing with women, and no, I don't know, but he definitely
Hold on a second, Al.
he definitely would not, I never misconstrued when he was angry or not.
Mhm.
But see, something like that, a lot of times, it's not really directly about the person. It's
Mm.
about, think about it. You don't know, and this stuff it stems, y'all, from childhood. You don't
That's right.
know
Absolutely.
That's right.
what has happened in that
That's true.
person's life to where the reaction that they get, if somebody could say, hey, look, I need you to, could you pick that up off the floor, and they can take
Mhm.
it in such a way because of what they've been accustomed to. And I'm not making excuses for them, but
Right.
Mhm.
just off of what they've heard in their latter, earlier life, coming on up, and has never healed from that. No
That's
one's
real.
ever taught them better, or said, hey, look, sit down, let me talk, let me explain something to you. When I say this, it's
Mhm.
not me, being mad. I'm saying this to you because I love you. So a lot of times you don't get that. And if you don't get that,
Mhm.
it looks like everything that's being said, you're attacking me.
Mhm.
Right.
So
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's
yeah,
true.
I think it is, the frequency is a part of that. I like the way you
Hmm.
said
Mhm.
that, because I never would have put that two and two together. Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said too, I think too there is. My wife used the term receptors quite a bit. Like sometimes, you know, just to piggyback off what you were saying, childhood. If you've been used to being fussed at all of your life, and that's
Hmm.
just something that you that's normal, then it's possibly that you train your ears just to anything that may be over a particular decibel. You know what I'm saying, or a
Hmm.
particular resonance, because it triggers or is reminiscent of what you might have heard as a child. Because I know, like for me, one of the things that we worked through um, when I grew up, I was very mild mannered, passive in terms of my speech. Like I wasn't very boisterous or loud with my
Hmm.
voice at all. You know what I mean? I was very super timid. As
Hmm.
I've, over the course of probably last 7, 8 years or so, like in my household, everybody says he's just so loud. But what
Really?
happened to me? Oh man, you unbelievable, unbelievable. My wife was she was mentioning it today. She was like, you just loud. But what happened?
Like loud for no reason.
But what happened is as I grew into and became very much aware of who I was, my voice grew with that as well. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And internally, even before I knew it or realized it, it was like I'll never put myself in a position again as long as I live where my voice is not heard. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And now it's worked in my favor, I guess, to some degree, but sometimes there are times where I have to um, my coattail is pulled to the point where, we may be having a conversation and my wife is like, "You talking over me? You're not letting me finish." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I have to be very, careful to be more aware of it in those conversations. Even with her or with other people. But the reality of it again is that came from the idea that I've spent so many years not saying, not speaking
Hmm.
up for myself, not being vocal, and then when I found that, I'm like, oh, I will never be that person again. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So. Um, and a lot of times I like to say when we're having conversation, she's like, "You're being so loud." I'll say I'm being passionate because I am a very passionate person.
Yeah.
But it takes a person getting, being able to know who you are and know you, because for somebody who did know me, you know what I mean, it very well may come across like, man, this guy is but it's not, most of the time it's not my intention. It's just, I am very passionate and, I like to get my point across. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Boy, do
yeah,
you. I see
yeah.
DJ Sean in the house. I want to welcome you onto our show, DJ Sean. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yep.
I don't know what the hell's going on with this system.
I don't either. We I just know we it's gonna be all right. That's what I'm saying. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. How are you
Where
this evening?
I'm good, and the words of that little white boy, a bullshit.
Nut.
Bush. That is funny. So we are back in on day two or week two on conversations between men and women and how they communicate differently. Last week we had a really good show. I think we even went over the 11 o'clock mark, talking about the differences, and we didn't get to talk about some things that how we could bridge the gap, I guess, to say, as a lack of a better term. So we want to talk about bridging the gap, and if anybody out there has some questions, that this is an open forum, and there are plenty people in this forum who have really good knowledge. Last week, Dion, my cousin Dion, was on, who's been married for 25 years. She was on. She had some good tips. I think you're on. Is Dion on here today? Hello, Dion. Are you here with us today?
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm here.
Yep. So you wasn't planning on saying nothing today, huh?
uh, I chime in when
We,
I'm like,
we're gonna have to check her ID.
If you have to see her too, because she looks so young, and yet she holds all of this amazing wisdom to be had. So last week we talked about men wanting to solve problems and women wanting to be heard. And I think, Tori, you just kind of hit on that a little bit when you say your husband to say something. We listen for emotions.
Mhm. Mhm.
We listen to how you say, like we pick up on every single little solitary difference. Well,
Mhm.
you didn't say it like that last week. Are you mad? Are you? And I know that
Right.
I'm good for that, and not just because it's a male and female difference, but I grew up in a household where I had to be really hyper sensitive, not to my dad, but to my mom and the way I said things. So it made me super hypersensitive to how I speak. And it
Mhm.
also made me super hypersensitive to how others talk to me, having to interpret inflections and is this a good time to say something? Is it not a good time? So growing up in a household where, you have a caregiver that is, for lack of a better term, sensitive as well to
Mhm.
how you
Mm-hmm.
talk to them, it makes you hyper vigilant sometimes on how you talk.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's not really a good thing, because if you have two people that are healing or in the process of healing or not even in the process of healing, and this one's saying and this one's saying, and all you hear is childhood, 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 my mama, my daddy, my mama, my daddy, you don't even really get to the good part of the conversation because everybody's triggered.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. And that's why it's good to start from the beginning, because somewhere in there we never know where the kink actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Unless it's something as something like rape, maybe like like that. But we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about emotions. We're talking about what we hear. We're talking about what we see. All of that. And with what you were saying, Letitia, a lot of times, for those who may be going through the healing process, you are very correct. It causes you to be like that, because if you don't, it's almost like if you don't, you really don't know what this may do to where this may take this person. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
Especially, people who don't heal, they carry this for years and years and years, and wonder why they
mhm,
can't hold healthy relationships, or why they have insecurities, or why they look at themselves as being worthless, and
mm,
nothing of no value. You know what I'm saying? So again,
Mm-hmm.
I always say it starts with you, but we have that there has to be a place where you start. You have to
Mm-hmm.
first admit, you know what? I'm not as bad as I seem. I know I got this going on, but I got to work on it. You know what I'm saying? Because what I don't
Right.
want my partner to feel like is, well, I got to walk on eggshells now because I don't know how she's going to
Yeah.
react.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't ever want him to feel like, well, what's wrong, baby? Well, I don't think we should talk about it because I don't want to, because I might say something wrong and you may take it out of the way. And I don't, I just don't, I want to keep peace. So now my partner feels as though it's just not good for, he's not comfortable communicating with me and I'm his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, we have to find a common, you know what I'm saying, come together and work on it. And you have to be willing, as the person issuing it, you have to be willing to work on it as well. So
It
it's going to be stinging a little bit along the way. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a
it
little
takes
stinging.
it takes a certain amount of vulnerability and honesty um, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I just might in this scenario may be more the problem than I'm willing to admit.
Woo.
And a lot
Mm.
of times people, when people don't move past a certain um, level, I guess, for lack of a better term, in healing, it's because they don't like it's the honesty. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And realizing and being honest enough to say, you know what, I'm creating more of this issue that we have than I want. You know, it's easy to be able to pass blame and say, well, I do this because you do this, or you
Mhm.
made me do this. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
takes no responsibility or places no responsibility on the person themselves to do any work, which is, relatively easy. Now it doesn't do anything for the relationship because if you keep operating like that, eventually, we know what the end result is going to be. But I think that, people being able to get to a place of vulnerability and honesty is definitely the first step in really healing and understanding that. And beyond that too, I think one of the things that my wife and I, one of the things that we're very clear about is that we mirror each other way more than we
Mhm.
probably would have been able to admit, years and
Mm-hmm.
years ago. Like we're
Mhm.
mirrors, you know what I'm saying? What triggers me in her and vice versa is like, quite often we both, we converse about it a lot. Man, that was because, or that resembled this in my life, or you triggered me because of blah, 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 so on and so forth. But yeah, we're mirrors. And in most instances, whether people realize it or not, the person that you're most intimate with or the people that you have the most closest and intimate relationships with, guarantee there are quite a bit of things that y'all resemble and mirror each other in those relationships. So if there's a problem, you could probably look at yourself and say, hey, if maybe I need to do something, about it myself, in myself, and maybe the situation can move towards a point of being better. But it's
Mhm.
honesty and vulnerability. And a lot of us just don't. We don't. We may not be willing to go there with that. Yeah. So.
Right. Right.
I'll tell you this, what I have observed and what I have definitely discovered, it's not just the mirror, and this is a sidetrack for men and women's conversation, but the mirror is really everybody. You mirror
Right.
something in everybody. And it
Yeah.
really was
Yeah.
pointed out to me this work term where someone said something to me and I was just heated. I mean, the heat was
Mhm.
on. I was so damn mad about what they said. I, you laughing, don't laugh at me. I was so mad. And the funny part about it is after I cooled down, and I mean, I didn't cool down within a day. I was mad for like
Mhm.
weeks. I was mad for weeks. And after I cooled down, I had to really admit the reason I was so damn mad is because they had told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And
That
it
part.
triggered me. And I
Mhm.
was really, and I was pissed at myself that I was, that it was true. And so I find that a lot of times the observation that I'm making is, and this might not be for everybody, but the observation
Mm-hmm.
that I have made that the things, because somebody said something weeks after that that was so ludicrous and could have been so offensive, but I thought it was so funny because it wasn't true. And so I wasn't triggered
Mm-hmm.
at all by it. And so sometimes I think the things that really get us when we are communicating with people, despite how they say it or what they say, the thing that really gets to us really is something that is inside of us, and it
Mm-hmm.
touches something. Because if
Yeah.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
inside of you, it couldn't touch nothing. There's nothing to
Right.
touch.
That's right.
I'm so damn
Hmm.
mad. And like, how dare you? How dare you say that about me? Well, because
The truth hurts though.
the truth hurts.
Remember.
And they
It
weren't,
does.
and this wasn't a friend. So
Hmm.
it's, it's not even like somebody I had to go and
Hmm.
it was just like the universe was like, message.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it hurt worse. You know what I'm saying? You would think it would hurt worse coming from a friend, but no, you could play it off, you can laugh and whatever. But when it comes from somebody that you don't know, and it's like,
Right.
damn, now I really got to check myself.
I
Mm-hmm.
really got to
You know
check
what I'm saying?
myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question for our listening audience, for our for guest listening audience, anybody on the show right now. Has communication ever led to a relationship disaster for you? That's the question. Has miscommunication ever led to a relationship disaster, and how did you recover? I'm going to give my own little personal story. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with those answers. Has miscommunication ever led to a relationship disaster? This is my story. So years and years and years and years ago, I was dating this guy, and I lived here in Atlanta, and he lived in Detroit. We've been communicating. Everything was good. Everything was good. I came to visit Detroit for a baby shower.
Hmm.
When I got here, and I came early because I was in college. So I came early. My parents, I didn't even tell my parents because I was, up to no good. And I got here and he said, I'm sick. And I was like, I mean, what you mean? I'm drove all the way here from Atlanta. What you mean you sick? And he was like, well, I'm sick. And from that point on, it was just a disaster. He came to the baby shower. I was pissed. He was pissed because he felt like I was disregarding the fact that he was ill. But it was really a lot of miscommunication because he didn't communicate to me that he was sick before I got there, because I would have done something different, and
Hmm.
I didn't communicate any kind of empathy for him because I didn't have any, and
Hmm.
it was a disaster. And we did not recover. That was it. I didn't talk to him ever again. He didn't talk to me, and I didn't talk to him. So that is the question. Has a miscommunication ever led to relationship disaster? We're going to take this small break, and we're going to come back for the listening audience.
Information, folks, right here, $5,000, right here. I'll give it to you for free. What I learned in marriage counseling was whatever we're having an argument, what I have to say has no bearing on that argument whatsoever. Doesn't matter at all. It's what my wife hears me say that matters. And some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. How many times have you said something to your wife and you can see by her reaction she didn't hear what you said? Then you spend the next 45 minutes arguing about what you meant to say. I know what you meant by it. Oh, what do you mean I meant? I didn't mean that. I said what I meant. I've learned. 20 years with this woman, I know better. I'll say something, see her reaction, and I'll go, oh, what'd you just hear me say? Then she'll tell me, and I'll go, you know what? I can work with that. Let's keep going. Here, perhaps I can make the back nine. So, took me 2 years of marriage to figure out my wife will never tell me to do anything around our house. She wants me to do something, she'll ask me a question. From the question, I'm supposed to stand there and figure out what it is she wants me to do. Simple example, say I leave a pair of my underwear in the middle of the bedroom floor, which frosts my wife. That's her favorite word. Someone will cut her off on the highway. Oh, that frosts me. And if I'm not frosting her, I'm driving her up a wall. That's another one. Kids will come in. Where's mom? She's up the wall with frostbite. That's all I know. You won't believe what put her there, son. It was that pair of underwear in the middle of the bedroom floor. Boy, you look at the most powerful pair of underwear known to mankind. They not only defy gravity, but they change temperatures. So I leave my drawers in the middle of the room. Would my wife come to me and say to me, pick those up? That's 3 words, pick those up. Would she say them? No, because that would be simple, direct, right to the point. Then I, her husband, would know exactly what she wants from me. I'd be able to process the information, make a rational decision as to whether or not I could deliver her request. You see, at that point, we would be communicating at the highest human level through language. My wife will look at me, look at my underwear, and then ask me, are those yours? I sure hope they are, otherwise I got a few questions of my own. What do you want? That is every man's question to the woman he loves. What do you want? Just tell me, what do you want? Quit talking in code and tell me what you want. If I have to tell you what I want, then it doesn't mean a whole lot to me now, does it?
I am guilty.
I walked around my house with a coat hanger strapped to my skull. Boys are, Dad, I'm trying to divine what your mother wants. There's got to be a signal in his home somewhere. So wrap me in tinfoil, it'll make me a better conduit.
Welcome back to the Be Lifestyle Radio Show. I'm your host, Letitia Dorsey Magaha, and we are talking about communication between men and women. I thought that was hilarious.
Yes.
She said, you know, it's funny because in groups of circles, they kind of make it seem like women don't ask for what they want directly, and they kind of hint around or insinuate. And I don't know if that's just a female trait. I don't know about that. But so, has miscommunication ever led to a relationship disaster? Anybody want to tell their story?
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first. Now this is the worst it's got for me. The only thing is we were able to recover at some point. Now, I thought we were not. That's how bad it got. Okay? Now, my husband and I'm gonna be honest. My husband and I was sick. Look, since we talk about sick, I was sick myself. We both end up getting sick together after a while, but went to get something to eat. The girl got the order wrong, and rung everything up wrong, and so I got angry because I'm hot, I'm sick.
You sick?
Yeah. So my husband, he's looking at me, and I'm looking at, why are you looking at me like this? Don't you see what's going on? And he said, yeah, but look how you acting. And I looked at him. I said, wait a minute. Now, if you were sitting in this seat, this would be you. You will be doing the same thing. He said, but baby, look how you acting. We are one. You represent me, and I don't like what I see. So we had an argument on the way home. When I got to the house, no, I was going to go to the store and get something else, but I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do, because I see where this conversation is going. I'm going to take you home. Because I already felt my blood was boiling, because, again, let's go back to what Tonio said. The frequency. See, it's what he was saying. It sounded to me like you chastising me when I'm sick. Exactly. And I'm sick, so I'm not feeling well as it is. So I'm ready at any moment anyway. So now I gotta go out. I gotta take you home, because I'm not about to have this conversation with you. So we pull up to the house, and you know what he did? He looked at me, and because I said something that I should not have said, but I'm pissed off at the moment, and I'm not making no excuse. But you know what he did? He looked at me and he said, "I'm done."
Ooh, oh, ooh.
Wow.
Never heard those words come out of his mouth. But again, going back to what Antonio said, frequency. what it sounded like to me. In my mind, he said, "We are done. We are over. I want a divorce. I'm out."
Ooh.
And that's how I took it.
But that's not what he was saying.
That's not what he was saying. But I never spoke to him. We didn't sleep in the same bed. We didn't say anything
I was in
because
Tony Braxton mode.
yeah, because but because of miscommunication, misunderstanding. And do you know it took the eighth day for me to finally say, "Hey, look, maybe we need to talk about this because this is what I heard." Well, baby, that's not what I said. That's not what I meant. So for 7 days, we didn't talk. Went
Wow.
a whole nother way.
Y'all in the house not talking
And
together?
we're in the house. See, that's what I'm saying. That is the issue. That was the issue, and still is kind of the issue. I have the fact that we're under the same roof. We're we're we wake up to each other. How in the hell do we miscommunicate? And we're right here in each other's face. But again, that goes back to, like I said, what Antonio was saying. It's what I hear. See, when I hear him talk, I hear daddy fussing. I hear fuss. But I have to learn. I have to start, and I started training my ear to not take everything, that he's saying, not take it as personal, or like I'm getting fussed at, because I tried my best and I feel like my best just wasn't good enough. That's what it goes through.
That's real right there. That is definitely real.
And I'm trying to be the best that I can be, but when I feel like you fuss at me, it's like I don't know what you don't know what you saw in me. What made you do this? You regret it. So all that stuff come up, but it's a mindset, and that's why I say I had to retrain myself to not overreact or react to everything that he says. And just think about it. And if you're not sure about it, ask questions. So what did you mean by that? Can you explain it to me? Because I want to make sure I understand before I react. So
Yeah,
that's where we are now.
we definitely try to work on that. So let me recap what you said, or let me make sure I understand what you said or how you said it. We implement that as well, because I think there's a misconception that once you're with somebody, or if you're married, that you are automatically just going to be on the same page.
Exactly. That's it. That's it.
Not true.
And it's not true, because the truth of the matter is, even the best of relationships, Antonio and I, like, we're besties. Like, we have a great time. It's a I won't say an effort-free relationship, because there's no such thing, but it is, we're highly compatible. We see a lot of things alike, but that communication piece is a every single solitary day piece of work. So on the sidebar, if you out there and you single, man, my advice is, if you have not found your marriage partner, find you somebody that you like, because it's work. It's work with the person that you like, and it's a lot of work if you don't like that person.
I would take it a step further, knowing what I know now. There are classes that people can take, or you could take on effective communication, I believe, in certain schools and programs. I think even before you get to a point or a place where you're involved in a relationship with someone else, like it would be highly advised to practice, learn how, get some tutelage, get some coaching on being an effective communicator. Now, does that mean that, even when you get in a relationship, that it's going to be flawless? No, it doesn't. But I think having a foundation, you know what I'm saying, before going into a relationship, to me, it enhances and it increases the opportunity for you to be, just as effective with somebody else as you would be, by yourself.
Right.
Learning on the fly is just, sometimes that can be cool and sometimes it doesn't. Like, Tori just said, in that one little instance of miscommunication, that seemed like it could have been the end of a relationship. You know what I mean? So, just getting your tool belt, you know what I'm saying, increasing the tools and the skills that you have. I think we don't talk about that a lot. We go to school for all kinds of other
All
things,
kind of
you know,
things.
you know, occupationally related and make more money and things of that nature. But relationships, you know, the world is ran on relationships, you know what I'm saying, and engagement. At the end of the day. So yeah, you just being able to be, you know, a little more skillful in that area, I think could help quite a few people out. Definitely before getting into a relationship. Yeah.
DJ Sean, has a communication ever led to a relationship disaster with you? All right, he's on hold. Antonio, what about you? Have you ever had a
Why you had to laugh?
Yeah, you know,
Oh,
I've had quite a few experiences with communication that didn't necessarily turn out to be. I won't even use the term favorable, but that were slightly, somewhat disastrous. Yeah. Probably two of the most recent ones were involving me being able to voice my perspective on some things that have happened between some people or some situations that have happened, and I kind of voiced what my stand was on it. And I don't think the people took too lightly or took too kindly to my voice and my perspective. And yeah, we're not in relationship at this point. You know what I mean? At this,
mhm.
So yeah, it happens. I kind of pride myself on being a decent communicator for the most part. But I think sometimes when people get used to you being a particular way, and then you kind of come outside of that and they see you as being different, some people are not willing to adjust to
Mhm.
that evolved or elevated state of, being that you may be. So yeah, I've had it. And then I've had opportunities to where I was not as communicative as I need to be, and just kind of went off the deep end, and caused a lot of devastation by not operating with any kind of emotional intelligence and just kind of being a rah-rah type of person, and it ended up hurting, being very hurtful, and nothing was resolved or nothing was communicated effectively because you couldn't really hear anything. You got two
Mhm.
people yelling at each other, going back and forth, and you just don't get anything. So I've had a vast amount of experiences with communication, chaos, and disaster. Yes.
communication, chaos, and
And
disaster?
disaster.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's
I
tough
have.
right there. That is tough.
Hello,
All right.
everyone. You have this on the line. How can I help you? How can I direct
Hey,
your
we
show?
want to introduce, this is an important part of this radio show. Miss Robin Lynn, how are you this evening?
I am doing great. You guys have a really fantastic show. I love sitting back in the cut with a bag of chips. Feet up.
That's it.
Yeah,
Well, thank
Yeah.
they only allow her out but so many hours, and then we got
we thank you for joining our show tonight. We're talking about communication, men and women's communication. And Robin Lynn, have you ever had a miscommunication that led to relationship disaster?
Yes. And it's always the communication, the breakdown of the communication.
Mm.
Mm.
Me, people say you have to have trust. Without trust, you don't have anything. No, if you don't have communication, there's nowhere to go. And if the breakdown in communication starts happening, and if I can't reason with you in a conversation, I'm running away from you as fast as I can. Don't
I
get
know
in the
that's
way
right.
because you'll get beat up if you get in front of the door. I'm
I
just
know that's
saying.
right.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a whole, like, people who can't even reason together. That's a
Oh yeah.
whole nother topic. My goodness, people who you can't even reason together with.
Mhm.
That's a whole nother subject right there, boy.
Yep.
That is disastrous every single solitary time.
Mm-hmm.
Communication should be the love language.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
DJ Sean, has a miscommunication ever led to a relationship disaster for you?
Uh, not in relationship because I didn't stay in too many. Now I can say now in the sports world, it has a lot of times I made the wrong mistake and tried to fix it and then end up uh, losing, using losing organizations as far as them reaching out to me, getting referees. I was doing this game. I had already had a bad day, and I never should have went. I never should have stepped on the court to referee.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But I was like, I had that attitude. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do this game. Maybe it'll help me. I ended up teeing the coach off
Oh
because I
wow.
thought he was talking to me and he wasn't talking to me, so I teed him up.
Mm.
So the other, so I huddled up with the other two refs. I was like, I wasn't really thinking. I said I could take this back. It's like, yeah, you can take it back. Just use it. So we talked about it, huddled up with the other refs. So we went back to the table, pulled both of the coaches to the center of the table, and explained to them that we're taking it back. So then the other coach goes off and acts crazy. So then I had to tee his ass up for a
Mm.
legit technical foul, and he got mad instead of taking it personal. He took it personal instead of taking it business, and said, "You'll never come back and do a game for me ever again." And I was like, "That's fine." And then the very next week, he had me on a championship game,
Oh, wow.
and
Mm.
a championship game. But I said, you know what? I'm not going to use what he said the week before, coming into this because then I'm taking it personal. I
Right.
just, did it as professional as I can, and then he comes and apologizes to me and says, "I'll be calling you next week to get for my referees." I said, "No, you find somebody else to do it. I'm good.
Get somebody
Hmm.
else to do it.
Mhm.
I'm good. I'm good."
Wow.
Because then I'll be at his place. Then he'll have something to talk about, and
Right.
get the fans all riled up. See, you see a lot of referees, you know, get into that situation. They get attacked, set up for,
Oh,
to be
right.
harassed and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And a lot of them don't know what they're getting themselves into. And that's part of training. But everybody's chasing a dollar. So I was like, nah, I'm good. You find something else, do your games. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Well,
I've done that plenty of times. Messed up and teed a coach or even put parents out. Yeah, and then
but I
realize.
think with communication, if people are well, because you're gonna have moments of in anything, in any relationship, whether it's a couple's relationship, whether it's your job, we're not perfect. None of us are going to be perfect, and things are going to be said. And I think the ability to recover is that's the critical part right there. And I
Mhm.
know, especially with couples, one of the indicating factors of whether you're going to make it as a couple or not is how you recover.
Mhm.
Hmm.
If you have, if you miscommunicate, as you will, but you don't know how to recover and repair, it's not gonna work out good. It's not gonna work
Mhm.
out
Hmm.
good. So recovering and repairing is definitely imperative. We are He Said, She Said, Part 2, the Be Lifestyle Radio Show. If you're listening online and you want to chime into this conversation, give us a call at 609-663-5493 and give us your miscommunication stories. We have several listeners right now. Does anybody want to chime in any story that comes to your mind where communication led to a relationship disaster? I need my Jeopardy music. Boo, boo,
I can say for me, it's not so. I don't think I have a problem with communicating how I feel, but sometimes I don't control my nonverbal um actions.
Yes.
So it's like my mouth will be saying one thing, but my body language and my face will be saying something different. And then, it's my husband's like, it's not what you say, it's how you said it. So that part.
That's
We
a
grew,
good one.
that is a good. We grew up in an era. Most people, like now the young people, when you say energy, young people know what you're talking about. We tend to
Mm,
say, "Oh, we don't believe in energy," but energy does not lie.
mm-mm.
So when you look at me and you say, because my next sounds like somebody is underwater. Um, when I look at you, because the next question I was going to say, when she says, "I'm fine," what does that really mean? And that's just for anybody. Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. But your whole body language says otherwise. And you want to go back and forth with me to say you good and I'm feeling it. I can feel the lie.
Mhm. Mhm.
Why do we do that?
Why do we
Uh,
not express that we're feeling a particular way?
Why don't we
yeah.
tell yeah, why
Yeah.
don't we tell the truth?
Why lie?
I mean, I think one answer is sometimes. Well, let me speak from personal. I have. I don't think I'm so much so much like that anymore. But there's the idea that you don't want to feel burdensome
Mm,
burdensome to the person that you are connected to or that you're engaging with. You know what I mean? You feel like, man, this is a me issue, and maybe I should work through it, or maybe I feel like I shouldn't be able to, or shouldn't feel like this. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I don't want to put that on you, so to speak. Now, it's not. I don't think it's definitely not a good habit, and it's not a good operating like that. I don't think works out. But I
Mhm.
think, for me, my mindset has been in the times that I've been in that space. I don't want to put this on you. You know what I mean? If we're having a good time or good, in a good space, and I feel like, well, man, this may dampen the mood or whatever, then
Mhm.
I'll just, yeah. So, yeah. So just the reluctance to put that on you. Now that's personal. Now, it may be some other answers out there. I don't know.
Well, for me, I'm gonna be honest. I was very guilty of doing that, but my reason for doing that was to keep confusion down. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because again,
Mm-hmm.
it's what's being said, how it's being said, the tone that it's being used in, all of that, body language. So what I would do when I see or when I hear or when I feel myself starting to get to the point where my voice is starting to raise and I'm starting to feel because it gets that
mm,
quick. But
mm,
I'll get there and you know what I'll do? I used to tell him, he'll be like, do we need to talk? Is there anything we need to talk about? No, no, I'm good. Are you sure? Yeah, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, if I do that, I want, I'm not so much I won, but I've succeeded because I yet stopped another argument unnecessarily. But
Mm-hmm.
that has effects because that's just like a wound. If you don't treat
Mm-hmm.
mm,
it, it does not
mhm,
heal. So now
mhm,
I got all this starting to pile up now because
mhm,
that's not the only time I did it. I did it that time too, and that's where again the communication that it's miscommunicated because in his mind you one time when we should have been talked about this, but because I'm trying to keep the confusion down, look what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like, you know what, I can't win for losing, but we got to a point to where we actually had to sit down and we had to lay everything on the
mhm,
table.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
That's when now we understand, okay, well, I see this makes you feel like this. So you know what? From
mhm,
now on, I will work on, you know,
mhm,
and you know, it's a process and it takes steps and it is not going to be overnight.
mhm. You got
That's
that
just
right.
it. So, but we're willing to work on it. And see, and that's the thing. Your partner also has to be willing to do the work with you.
That's right.
You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying? Because it
That's right.
is, like Letitia said, marriage is work. And I did not realize it.
Hmm.
I did
Yeah.
not realize it, y'all. I was
I
like,
don't think none. I don't think we do. I don't think we do realize
no.
how much, even with the. That's what I'm saying. With the the person that you are the most attracted to, you have the most fun with,
Mhm.
who you are like two peas in a pod. It's still hella work.
Yes.
Yep.
But you
That's
got,
right.
I'm a go beyond, but then you also have friends and family that causes
Oh, yeah.
If you let
situations.
them,
Well, yeah, if you
if
let them,
you let them, if you let them.
yeah, they
That's
cause it
real.
just to be to get, they cause it just because they, that's something that they do. They want to see you argue. They want to see
Mhm.
you uh, have something, that they could talk about. Well, see, I knew it.
Right.
I knew Antonio and Letitia. I knew they wasn't right for each other. They always arguing. But that's when
Yeah.
it came in
Oh yeah.
and started.
Oh
Misery,
yeah.
misery loves company. Misery loves company.
Oh
You
yeah.
gotta look at it that way as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because a lot of times they want what you have.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why
And
they
if
You
you're
call
have
it.
to
not,
be.
and if you're
Yeah.
not careful, and because there's a certain amount that needs to be shared, and then there's a
Mhm.
certain amount that doesn't need to be
Right.
shared,
Mhm.
because people latch on to that amount that doesn't need to be shared. Whew,
Mhm.
you have to have a major amount of discernment, um,
Very much so.
for
Very much so.
relationships.
Mhm.
Well, being and being on the same page, um, being on the same page and understanding, like my wife and I now, it's crazy. Like as of recent, man, we finishing each other's sentences. She may get ready, or I'll play a song. Like I don't know what something happened today. I played a song and she was
At
like,
the house, and I was in my
"Yeah,
car, and we were playing the same song at the same time.
yeah."
Wow.
But
Mm.
I was saying all that to say, even when we go to certain places and environments, like
Mhm.
we try to be really keenly aware. Well, let me not even try to be, but energetically, like we can, if we go into a place and the energy is like off, like
Mhm.
we almost simultaneously look each other and be like, yeah, it's time to roll. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like this is not, this ain't for us. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because if you're trying to maintain and keep what you have together, that type of discernment and being in tune with one another, like it's so very imperative. Because like you
Yeah.
said, Tori, everybody, misery loves company, and everybody ain't cheering. Like even the people that you may think, that may
Oh,
appear to
yeah.
be cheering you on, sometimes may not be really deep down inside. Like I don't really, because they don't have that. You know what I mean? In most
Mhm.
instances, so you have to be really discerning and really, really careful, and aware of where you are, what you're doing, and who you're doing it with. Let me say it like that. You do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have gotten to the 10 o'clock hour. We are going to take a little musical break. And when we
Already?
come back, yeah, it's the time flies by so fast. And it's so funny. I was sleepy before we started the
I
show, and I'm
know.
wide awake. But when we come back, if we will go on to another piece of communication, he said, she said, communicating between relationships. We'll be right back.
Last night I saw you standing and I started
It's 10:07, and you are listening to the Be Lifestyle Radio Show. I'm your host, Letitia Dorsey Magaha, and you are listening to part 2 of He Say, She Say Communication. Uh, Antonio, I was listening to that song, and we used to be in a band together, and that was the cover song that I had to sing. So that song brings back fond memories.
Yeah.
We need to hear a little bit of that.
I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Wait.
No,
Me,
so,
me, me,
give
me,
me-
me, 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 me. Yeah.
Girl,
What? Sorry.
girl. Look, I'm waiting.
Mhm.
I'm just,
What? So I hear you back. I hear you, husband. Talking
uh-huh.
Oh, you're gonna get yours later.
Uh-huh.
That's gonna be in your ear.
Hey, nah.
Hey, can we
That's-
talk for a
That
minute?
pillow talk.
Communication.
Now
So,
that's a real good form of communication right there. Yes.
There you go.
listen, and the more you can really be on the other pages, the better it gets.
Oh my.
especially if you're in a relationship and both of you can sing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's love right there when you both can sing a love song to each other.
That is sweet. That is sweet. All right. So, question. Next question for anybody. And if you are listening, please jump in. Please jump in and give us. You don't have to be introed in. Just jump right in. So, when a guy goes silent for hours, is he shutting down or is he processing? What's y'all's experience?
I think from a male perspective, it could be either or. It could be either or. It could be either or. Yeah. Mostly, I would say, guys get quiet because they're processing. You know what I mean? They're mulling over and they're thinking. They're in a very contemplated mood. But yeah, shutting down is a very real thing. Yeah, it's very real.
So, so a man, because this is a good question, Letitia. So I need to know. I don't have to do anything for him to shut down because a man gonna shut down regardless, right? Especially like you said, if he's pondering on something, is this something that comes naturally, or does something have to trigger him to shut down?
It could
Good
be either
question.
or.
I'm just
I mean,
saying.
it could definitely be, male. You could have said something, did something that he might not have expressed or said to you that caused him to do so as well. Yeah, that can happen.
Or
That
it
can
could have
happen.
been something that happened at work, but because
Or
I'm
that
not
too.
there, I don't know. But you come home
That's right.
with you feel what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's right.
So where's the communication?
Yes, because see, I don't know this. And because I don't know this, you come in and shut down in this shell, don't want to talk, don't want to say anything. And now I'm confused. You feel what I'm saying? So now here goes the miscommunication because all you had to do was just say, baby,
Just
look,
say.
it's just say it.
That's real.
But see, but that's interesting because it's not all that seems simple. And just like the conversation we were having last night where the lady was talking about her mother-in-law, man, how
Dang, girl.
how she, because she was Creole and she didn't want her to be married. She didn't want her son to be married to the super dark skinned woman, and the negative things that she was saying on the surface, and I'm telling you, that conversation last night really triggered a lot of thoughts in my head. But when we think about the deep roots of things and like how being light skinned or passing for white could keep you alive and being black as night could get you killed, then you look at things, it was deeper than, just her not liking her. And so when you say that, when we talk about why didn't you just say how you felt when you walked in. Well, what if you grew up in a household where you couldn't express your emotions and you had to
Again,
your stuff
yes,
in? So
yes.
you don't get those. Naturally, your body is, because when you grow up, as you grow up, your body, your neurals, your system is trained. It's
Hmm.
trained for all those years you've been at home. For all those years you lived under your parents' roof.
Hmm.
Your system is trained to do a certain thing without even thinking about it. So if you've been trained to keep your mouth shut and not express your emotions and not say anything, and you can't express how you feel, well, you're naturally going to do that until you become aware and then start doing something different.
So would that be like a defense mechanism, kind of?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think too on behalf of men, and this is definitely not healthy, but a large part of the time as men, even if it's not explicitly spoken of or talked about in the home, you know, being able to figure out your own issues without involving, your partner in it, sometimes it could be seen as a sign of weakness. So let me
Mm,
go into my shell, let me go into my hole and figure out how to get my family out of this financial situation or this whatever may be the case. And it could be seen as such, you know what I mean? Now, it's not communicated, but
Hmm.
a lot of times that can happen as well. Again, not the healthiest, but I think that has, just based on examples and based on what we've seen a lot, in our childhoods and early on, that becomes,
Hmm.
becomes normal. It becomes normal. Yeah,
mm,
this is the way I figure this out. This is the way I fix this. Yeah.
Hmm.
mm.
Hmm.
But you know
That's
what?
good.
That is really and truly, that is the reason why you have couples counseling before you get married.
Hmm.
Hey, you wasn't on the show last week. We talked about couples counseling last week.
We did.
Yes.
You went to couples counseling, Tori?
Yes, I did. I did because my church required it. So I had to do it in order for them to marry us. And see, the thing about it is, I got married late. I don't consider it late, but I got married at 38.
Okay.
Yes. So when I came into the relationship, I'm already pretty seasoned as it is, but just never been married.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I have a husband who has walked that walk
Mm-hmm.
before. So now think about it like this. Oh, we could take this to a whole nother level if you want to take it there. Let's do this. Okay, you got a woman who's never been married, single mother, uh up until she ran back into, because my husband and I dated when we were in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a year ahead of me. So my mother was one of those strict mothers. You're not going in a car with him. You're not gonna do it. So I had to let him go so he
Mm-hmm.
can live his life. So almost 20 years later, we meet back up. But I had to think about it and remember now, this is not the same 16-year-old you knew.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
grown man who has experienced life, who now has children, who at the time was married but was going through a divorce.
Hmm.
So, because we're at a different stage in our life, uh, I had to learn, of course, learn about him again because this is not the same person.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did not know is what happened in that marriage caused my husband to be a very scorned man.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So not only you talking about communication, you got a whole this is a whole man that has been broken.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful of of even that. You know what I'm
Right.
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because somebody that's broken, now if they're broken, that means their communication is broken. The way they perceive things is broken.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is, you know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that in itself, we just talking about communicate. That's communication in all kinds of ways. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You can't look at them. You can't say this because this reminds of it's still like a
Mhm.
fresh wound. Going back to
Mhm.
what I was saying, this is just like wounds.
Mhm.
So if the communication is not right, then that all of that hurt that he was experiencing, he would have never been able to, you know what I'm saying, express to me, hey, look,
Mhm.
when I was with her, this is what happened. So when you did this, it reminded me of that. It triggered it. So
It
I'm
triggered me.
asking you,
Mhm.
please don't do that again. But I
Mm.
love my husband enough that, you know what, I need you to tell me. Because
Mhm.
in order for us to work, in order for our communication to be effective,
Mhm. That's my
we
favorite
got
word.
to know. Yeah, I got to know. As much as it's gonna hurt, some of it may hurt, but as much as it, whatever I got to do to make sure we are on the same page, where you can get to the point where y'all at now, where you can finish your sentences, and you can walk in the room and see, hey, you know what? Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I mean, that's something every man. Well, I don't know. It depends on the individuals, but in my opinion, that is where every marriage wants to be.
Mm.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's all about the work. Like
Mhm.
Letitia said, it
Mm.
takes work. And
Mhm.
if you are not willing to do it, especially not willing to do it with the person that you're with, please go.
Please go.
Go. I kid you not. I've learned a lot being single because I had a celibate point before I got married. I was
Mm.
celibate for 2 years
Mm.
and I learned a lot.
Mm.
I learned a lot. And I'm talking about from being single. I learned about Tori. I learned what Tori like. I
Mhm.
learned, and that's another thing. Take time on yourself.
Mhm. We talk about that a lot on this show. Get to know
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, get to know yourself because sometimes you might communicate, even with yourself, you might not like how you said, how you did that. Fix it.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Facts.
you see how it made you feel. Okay, so just imagine how it makes my spouse feel. I
Mhm.
don't ever want to be the person to hurt my spouse. I'm here to help. I'm here to help meet a need. That's why I said that's why you have couples counseling because those are
Mhm.
the tools.
Well,
Those,
good maybe good couples counseling,
yes.
because there's so obviously your couples counseling was helpful
Hmm.
for you. And but we were saying last week, people go to couples counseling, shoot, the wedding is next week, and it's just formality sometimes, and it's just you get this out the way so you can go on and get married. um One of our guests last week, April, she said that she's a licensed minister and she won't marry people because she's never been married. And to have that kind of insight
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
is really uh, it's lacking. That kind of insight, honestly, I'm gonna say it, is
Hmm.
lacking a lot, because if you have two people and you just giving them counseling and you don't even know them, or you don't have discernment and you can't, or you're not even brave enough to maybe suggest, you can see this is not going to go far,
Hmm. Hmm.
but you don't
Right.
have the guts, or you don't have whatever it takes to say, maybe you guys need to sit this out for a minute, or
Hmm.
reconsider some things, or you know and then there's people who are hell-bent on doing what they want to do regardless. So
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
that couples counseling can, it could be hit or miss.
It
Mhm.
could be, and you're correct. You know what though? Going back on what you said about the lady, the minister, I respect how she feels, and I respect, that if I don't have experience in it, who am I to tell somebody else about,
Mm,
how to do this and how to do that. But also where I disagree,
mm,
as a woman of the cloth, the word says it right there. It's in the word. what the duties are for the husband, what the duties are for the wife, it's right there in the word. And if you're still not sure, you go to God in prayer, because that's his word. You ask him, show me how to teach your children, because this is my job. You gave me this job. And even though I've never been here, even though I'm not, you give me the words to say. That's when you don't lean on your own understanding. That's when you go to God and you ask God, because you, as a woman of God, you in the cloth, that you are not supposed to turn away. You don't do that. You don't do that. You know what I'm saying? She would have to actually, and I understand as far as the experience, I understand, but it's in the word. The word is the instruction. All you got to do is regurgitate it.
Boy, I tell you, this is a whole nother show at 10:23. Because I am gonna get these 5 tips for better communication between men and women out. But as a former minister, I say this, that's really it's so many different ways to look at that, because
Yeah, it
there's
is.
so many ways to interpret a thing, and so many ways, like the word says that women should be quiet in the church, and that's not and
Nah.
out of context of the history of why and all of that stuff. It's just, that's
Hmm.
another subject. We're gonna
It,
come
it,
back to
it
that subject
yeah.
another show, and you're gonna have to come back, and I'm gonna invite all the ministers I know, and we're gonna bash that one out.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. At 10:24, you're listening to the Be Lifestyle Radio Show. So let's go through these tips for better communication between men and women. Number one, and these aren't just tips for men and women. These are tips. These are amazing tips for everybody. Listen to understand and not to respond. Listen to
That part.
understand and not to respond. And what that means is, instead of while the person is talking, you're planning your comeback. Listen with empathy. Listen with empathy. Repeat back what you heard to show that you're really listening.
Hmm.
How many times do you in a heated conversation with somebody, it's finished before they got to come back? Did you really listen to what they said?
Well, but I think to why are you laughing? Why? That's funny. That's funny. No, I think we sometimes we definitely put the cart before the horse. These are skills that are most often not taught in our homes. This is not stuff that we
Uh-huh.
learn what we see. You know, so
Right.
I think we have to move beyond just believing that this is something that as an adult you should know. You should just know better. Nah, no, I haven't been taught.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then even after the teaching, there's the practice of a thing. You know what I mean? You get
Right.
better
Hmm.
at doing something and more consistent by consistently practicing it. You know what I mean? So I think for me, we have to start there first. If it's not something that you're used to, learn how to do it and then practice it. Um,
Hmm.
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, yeah. Most of us hadn't been taught that. I wasn't. That wasn't something that I was taught. You know what I mean? I wasn't. Yeah, like the idea of listening, not to respond, was a foreign idea to me probably to
Yeah.
some years ago. It was.
Much better job at it now, baby.
Well, well, I mean, I appreciate it, but I mean, real talk, like it
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, I can be honest. It's been a struggle for me, um, because yeah, especially if the conversation is very triggering. You know what I mean? You like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you defense mechanisms come up, and then this is where those filters come in too. If you're hearing a particular thing a particular way, then well, you're saying something to put me down, or you're saying something to offend me, or I think you said earlier, Tori, I'm not doing enough. You know what I mean? So you're trying to
Hmm.
defend all of that when in actuality that might not be what's being said.
Hmm.
But if those triggers and those filters, you know what I mean, that you're hearing, what you're hearing with have not been cleared out, you know what I mean, and you're not hearing from a healthy perspective, then it's not going to matter. So all those things I think we have to definitely look at before we, we really start taking those things seriously. The practice,
Right.
the healing, all that is very imperative.
Right.
Very imperative.
All right. We have number 2, respect the cave and the wave. Men may need space to process, and women may need to talk to relieve stress. Pro
Oh
tip:
Lord.
don't take silence or emotion personally.
Right.
Don't take the silence or the flip side, a woman's emotions personally. Ask, what do you need right now? What do you need right now? And I know for myself in this, as the only child, a person who grew up in as an only, I got a lot of things that I wanted. I wouldn't personally say I was spoiled, but somebody might beg to differ.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
taken me a lifetime to understand what service means, to people. Format. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about being able to step outside of myself and
Yeah.
see what the need is over my emotions. If
Oh God.
Antonio is feeling some kind of way, to be able to go, what is really going on here? If there's a lot of emotions going on, and I know I didn't do anything or say anything, to be able to not take things personally. The number 2 rule on one of our favorite books, um, The Four Agreements. I highly
Mhm.
recommend it for you. If you haven't read The Four Agreements, I highly recommend, because number 2 is not taking things personal. So when people
Mhm.
are, I'm not going to grab it and make it about me when it's not have anything to do with me. What do you need? What's happening right now? What do you need right now?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
If your wife or girlfriend or partner is like, she needs to talk, she might need to talk. And I guess this is why girls have girlfriends. Like, we have friends that we talk, because female to female, for the most part, that's what we can do. We can
Mhm.
talk and process and talk, because I know I process while I talk.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get you some girlfriends.
I think too, going back to we said a few times tonight, like really adamantly trying to understand, especially if you're considering making building a life with a person, getting married, understanding the person that you're with as much as you can. Hopefully, they are who they are and they understand who they are. Because, for instance, if you get with a person who wasn't super duper talkative and wasn't a big conversationalist before y'all got married, or vice versa, because there are men that like to talk too. Um,
Mhm.
and then you get into the relationship, and all of a sudden you think, well, wow, you should just. But he never was, or she never was. Is that fair to that person? Is that fair?
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Go ahead. I'm
that's
sorry.
you know what
that's
I'm
a good
saying?
point. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they never, they were super quiet. You may get something, and all of a sudden now because we married, now things should change. I think sometimes we can really set ourselves up for failure when we don't pay attention to those things early on,
I agree.
and give ourselves an opportunity to say that works for me or that doesn't work for me. Quite often we even if we don't say it, I'm gonna change that person. You know what I mean? Or we ignore it. You know what I mean? Because of all the other feelings and all the things that come with that. Rush of being in a relationship early on, and then we get into it, and it's like now I'm confronted with all these things that I don't like, that don't work, and now it's a problem. So I think it's just
Right.
being adamant about paying attention to those things early on is very critical for me. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I guess it depends on um how it a lot of times how it started off because like you said, a lot of people they rush into it anyway. So of course those little quirks, those little flaws that they don't notice, it's covered up by puppy love or whatever you want to call that
Mm-hmm.
shit that
Mm-hmm.
they doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But cause at that point you too grown for puppy love,
Right.
so that's why I'm call but
I got you.
it just depends on a lot of time where they are because I know I have been guilty of, and I don't see how I did not see that, but I've been guilty for overlooking stuff. I'll say that because that's exactly what it was. I
Mm-hmm.
missed it and got real comfy. Now we're settled in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and now
Mm.
I noticed this nigga, no, he smacks when he eats. So
Oh,
you
we were
know
just
what?
talking about that earlier.
So,
Oh, that's crazy.
so I'm like, okay, he's mad. Okay, so you know what? That's easy. I could just talk to him about it. Hey, look,
So,
why you chewing with your mouth open? Why don't you chew with your mouth open? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, say something like that, and man, when I tell you,
Yeah.
it can. Oh God, it just depends. That's all I can
you
say.
you right about that because some stuff in the beginning where you have all of
Oh God,
the feelings of, I mean, it's chemical in the
yeah,
beginning. Like all of the chemicals are going. Your brain is dead. You are
yes,
Yeah.
brain dead.
seriously, yes.
Seriously. And then when all of that wears off and you have the real persons, the real people standing face to face, and you like, wow,
Hmm.
you know,
Damn, I
like
wish
I
I'd have
don't
known.
like the way your socks smell.
Exactly. I don't like the way you comb your hair. All that. I'm
But
just
I
then,
saying.
mean,
but
yeah.
then, yeah, but that's where I think that's where love, not infatuation, not
Hmm.
lust, not all of those other things that you thought were love. That's when love, I think that's where love kicks in. And I
Hmm.
also think, and these are my theories, so this is my show, so these are my theories. I'm not saying this is the gospel,
Yes, ma'am.
but the statistics, marriage statistics for me are the proof that we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Hmm.
Very much so.
We like
Hmm.
you can everybody thinks they know what they're doing because they marriage, the marriage rate is a thing. And then all of these people, we go through all these things before we didn't really know what was going to be the thing that's going to keep it together. We didn't know that, oh, that right there is a infatuation, and if you wait a year, all that's going to go away, and you're going to hate this person, you're going to
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
dang near hate this person. um but real love, and you go to Corinthians and it talks about what the things that love is,
Hmm.
patient and kind, and um all of those things. That's what love is. But I don't think that we control love. I don't think that we say what, we don't pick it. Because if
Right.
God, for me,
That.
if God is love,
Hmm.
and that means God is equal to love and love is equal to God, you don't control, you're controlling something that is not controllable.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
So I
Like
think,
the girl. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Cause I don't want
I,
to interrupt it.
no, I'm just saying, I think we have more control over things than we do. Oh, that was love or that wasn't love. And it's an after, kind of an after thing, that, oh, okay, that was love and that wasn't. I can't stand that person. I thought I was in love with that person. You were probably infatuated, you were a whole lot of things, but love wasn't it.
Hmm.
And you find out sooner or later. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree, though. I agree. That's why you have to hold fast and wait. It's best. You know what I'm saying? It's just now I understand it. Lord, if I would have just understood it then.
I know
It's
that's right.
you know
That's
what I'm saying?
yes, I do. I absolutely do because if your first this is your first marriage, right?
Mhm.
Which is so
Mhm.
it's great. And people, they think I got to be married when I'm 20 and I'm 24 and oh, it's getting
Mhm.
too late. But it ain't never too late for the right thing.
Exactly.
It's never too late. In fact, the wrong thing, like, because this is my second marriage.
Mhm.
So the wrong thing could it take up so much time of your life and so much hurt and heartache, and
Mhm.
so it's never too late for the right thing. It's never too late for that.
But
All
let
right,
That's
number
right.
three.
can
Oh, I'm sorry, go
can
ahead.
I say one more thing?
Oh
Let me
yeah, go
just
ahead.
I just want to I want to share something right quick because my husband and I, all that time that we weren't together, from the time that we broke up until almost 20 years later, the funny part about the whole thing is we were both through the exact same issues.
Mm,
Difference, he was married, I was single.
mm,
So
Mm.
whereas he
I
was
believe that.
dealing with the torment and torture and under one roof, I was dealing with it from one, two, three different people. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? I'm well, really the father of my kids, the father of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I've dated other people after them, but
Mm-hmm.
just the idea, all of that he was dealing with it with one person versus I was dealing with it with different people.
Mm.
and y'all,
So
you can see that
yes, the comparison, we actually sat down and talked about that to actually go through these same issues. The only difference is he was married to his. I wasn't.
mm-hmm,
Mm.
So to know that even with that, it's the same no matter where you are
mm-hmm,
at that moment. But it's a lesson for both sides, for the
mm-hmm,
single and for the marriage, for the married people, how to deal with this, how to deal with that as a single person versus being married. You know what I'm
mm-hmm,
saying? So
mm-hmm,
Right.
it's just crazy. It's
mm-hmm,
crazy how that happened, and we were able to share that. And knowing as a married couple, well, it's a certain way you do it when you're married, but it's a certain way you do it when you're single.
mm-hmm.
So now you
Yeah.
just gotta merge. It's almost like merging. I don't know, but it's when you said that, it just made me think about that. We were going through that same thing.
So did it show you that you guys were like super compatible?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Letitia. We saw that as teenagers.
Mm,
We did because when love, love, like you said, love love something else. But
mm-hmm,
we didn't understand the power of what we had, whereas other people, we listen to other people, oh, that's puppy love, because we assume we teenagers, we don't know nothing about nothing. Do you know, if I would have stayed with him, we would have been together over 30 years today.
mm-hmm.
The love
Wow.
that we had then, that they thought and we thought was puppy love, when we saw each other almost 20 years later, it's almost like somebody just lit that candle again.
Because
Wow.
because love never fails. And
Yes.
and what that means is love doesn't it doesn't go away.
Mm-mm,
And we don't control that. We don't control that. Love doesn't go away. Love never fades. Go away.
mm-mm. And it picked right up from where it left off.
That's
Like
dope.
we never left each other. Only thing is we just got older.
Oh,
We just
that
got
is
older.
beautiful. I love that.
Hmm. We've been together 12 years. December 20th will make 11 years married.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, let's we got three more tips. Number three, speak each other's love language. What feels like love to you might not translate the same way for your partner. Pro tip, learn how your partner receives affection, Do they receive it through words, actions, touch, time, or gifts? And I think I did a show maybe a year ago on this. The love language thing, you can look at it from both sides. You can look at it from, if both partners work on understanding what their partner's love language is, because sometimes people give you what they give it to you the way that they understand it, right? But if I'm giving it to you, if I'm giving it to you the way I understand it, but I'm the other person is on the other side going, well, that ain't how I get it. That ain't how I get it. But if y'all both do the same thing to each other, then everybody gets what they need, right? So it's not only just about, so if I need gifts and you give me time and the other part, I don't know. I think that we should work on both sides of it. I just don't think we should only, well, I only operate in gifts and you don't give me gifts, so you don't love.
Right, 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 right.
That's immature.
That's very immature.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's more of a mature perspective. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I think it's more of a selfless perspective. You know what I mean?
Very.
Like you're not, you're thinking beyond just me and what I want, and what my desires are. And sometimes it takes growth. You know what I mean? It takes this process. It doesn't come overnight. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
If two people are working together, though, I think that if mine is gifts and you know that mine is gifts and you refuse to give me gifts, is that love? No, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying that in opposition to anything that was said.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
just saying it goes both ways and 5, 10 ways.
Hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you know your partner responds well to this, why would you hold it? Why would you withhold it from them?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Cause look,
Somebody gonna say
I was
something.
gonna go back to the gifts thing. So, using that in reference with the gift thing, just because if I choose, I understand that, I'm just using it for an example, just like you did. But I understand gifts may be your thing, and you may feel that, through that, that's how you feel love. But I mean, at some point, you know what I'm saying? You know, I guess I'm trying to. It's a question I'm trying to ask, and it's not coming out right. But basically, what I'm saying is, so where did a lot of times I'm guessing they picked this up maybe in childhood. I don't know where would somebody pick up, or how would they pick up thinking that if you don't present me with some type of monetary gift, or whether
Mm.
it's a gift, uh where, I'm trying to see where in that did they feel love? Where did the love come from
We
through
kind
that?
of talked
Be-
about this last week too, because you ever read the 5 love languages?
no, never read that.
So this guy came up with this whole thing about the 5 love languages, and there's a free test online, a free quiz, and it kind of shows you what your love languages are. Now, I think we
Hmm.
talked about last week that sometimes people's love language is built on things that they did not get as a child, but it's subconscious. It's not
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
really in the front of their mind. And so, like for me, years ago, when I took the test the first time, maybe 20 something years ago, gifts weren't one of them because I got
Hmm.
plenty of gifts growing up. So it wasn't
Hmm.
a need for me. I did not have a need to get gifts, subconsciously. But I
Hmm.
needed words of affirmation, and that was my love language. And the love languages change. So yeah, sometimes they come from deficits in your childhood,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna send you over that. It's a very
Please do.
interesting little survey.
Hmm.
And when you understand your partner's love language, then you can really utilize that to boost their love, their feeling, their love feeling. And
Yeah.
one of the things I found to be interesting in this day and time, people who are hesitating to do for their partner, and I'm not talking monetary, I'm talking about feeling hesitant to express love
Mhm.
freely and openly and without any limits,
Right.
because for whatever reason. And I think that is a very interesting position to be in, when you don't feel free to love your partner, for
Mm.
whatever reasons. But I think ideally, being in a relationship where it's reciprocal, so
Mhm.
that that's not even a part of y'all relationship,
Mhm.
usury, or I'm not going to do this too much because they're going to get too used to it, or I'm not going to do this too much because I don't want them to take advantage of me. Those are
Oh
signs of
yes.
unhealthiness.
Yes.
All right,
I
number
agree.
4. Somebody was saying something.
No, I was saying I agree.
Okay. All right, number 4, timing is everything. Choose the right moment. Emotional conversations require emotional space. Pro
Mhm.
tip: ask, is now a good time to talk before
Mhm.
diving deep? Now, I'm very guilty of this because I'm a talker. And so, not even emotional conversations, I
Yeah.
might just, hey, I see you, and I'm like off to the races.
Mhm.
It Sometimes it's, and my husband is a very gracious person, so he ain't gonna tell me to shut up. Um, but there are times where he's like, can you kind of just, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
see if it's a good time for me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. I'm not offended. I get it. And so let's put our pride to the side. Let's let's start honoring our partners by, hey, is this good for you? Is it a good time?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's is extremely important because we can sometimes working in education can be definitely a very stressful can be stressful environments, and being empathic sometimes you end up taking in a lot of that stuff, especially working with kids, and being having a heart.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can be really, really heavy, you know what I mean? And coming home, um, getting involved, and not just even with your significant other, but just in general, getting involved in another heavy conversation right after you just left a heavy environment, sometimes can be very, very, very disastrous. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I think just having enough awareness and consideration to take those things into consideration as much as you can. And nobody makes for a good situation, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to really be having a conversation and you pouring your heart out and you sharing all of this information, and the other person over here and not
Ain't
they're
even
not hearing
listening.
a thing because they're completely
Oh.
still stuck on what happened at work, or still trying to process their emotions and feelings about what happened in the day. So I don't even have enough room in that scenario to even be able to hear what you're saying. So it's like a lot of wasted conversation and a lot of wasted energy. You know what I mean? So I think it just makes for a much better conversation to be able to get across what you want to when you pay attention to that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, let me ask this then. So, what if you have an environment where you have two married people?
Hmm.
Let's say, for instance, like you said, Antonio, I'm gonna use your example. Um,
Hmm.
work.
Yep.
You come home from work, and of course, how's your day? How was everything today? But we both got something on our, well, no, I'm gonna put it like this. One person had an issue at work where the other pretty okay day. Now,
Hmm.
it's kind of hard to communicate when the person starts telling you about their day and what was happening and how this became, it became chaos. My marriage is an example. A lot of times,
Hmm.
my husband, where he works, I don't know anything about what he does. I know what he does, but I don't know his job, how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So a lot of times he'll come home and he will express, oh, well, this happened today. And, I hate that this happened because that meant I had to go and do this and I had to go open this part up and look at it. And I'm like, it's hard for me. and not being
To relate.
intentional. Yeah, it really is. So a lot of times, if I don't express or start to feel some type of emotion like he feels,
He feels
it's
some kind of
all
way.
exactly.
Hmm.
But how can I, when I don't understand, I don't know nothing about the C valve and all that shit you talking. I don't know. So I wouldn't know, but because and I don't think he's. I don't want to say he's taking it wrong, getting upset with me, but it's almost like, well, I'm upset and I need you to see where I'm coming. Well, I do see where you're coming from, but I don't understand it because I've never.
Hmm.
So it's
So
hard. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I cut you off again. My
So
apologies. Yeah.
so basically, and that's the same thing. It's a back and forth thing. I could say what was going on with my job and how I had to put these invoices in, but then come to find out that about three of them was $20 off. So I had to. So it's hard for what I'm doing at my job. So now I'm feeling a certain way because I'm talking to you and I feel like you ignoring me.
Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm listening. I'm listening, but because you don't understand, you're not looking at me.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You're looking down, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at the TV. So I feel like you're not listening to me. So now
Have,
here,
have,
well, I can't listen to you because I don't know what you're talking about. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
so that was the question I was going to ask. So he does tell you that I'm not really um I don't understand. I'm not entails. Is that he does say that to you?
Well, that eventually it did come out. It came out,
Oh, okay.
and when I explained, unless you're there, we're more hands on. Unless you're
Gotcha.
there and you actually see what I'm going through, then you can say, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." But me
I got
telling him, it's like
you.
what you're talking about because it don't sound hard to me. That's
Gotcha.
what it'll come out like that. So yeah, yeah.
I got you.
Well, I think
But what do
that
you do in the? Go
I
ahead,
think
Tisha.
that
Go ahead.
I'll say that empathy, that learning empathy for everybody, because empathy doesn't always mean like I've done exactly what, or I know exactly what you're talking about, but and this is something that we all, well, I'm not gonna say we all, I'll say for myself, especially with the phones and the TV and all of this stuff, really being tuned in to your partner when they're talking and making that important, even if you don't understand, looking at them, being right there and present. And I know that
Mhm.
sometimes we till they mirror it.
Mhm.
Sometimes
Hmm.
they don't even aren't even aware. And even when you bring it to people's attention, like, hey, like one thing I talked to Antonio, like he's he's a Mr. Do It. Like he's gonna get it done. He gonna do it. He's a multitasker. He's gonna
Mhm.
do five things at one time. So I'm in here, I'm talking, and he done walked from here to the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen, and he done took out the
Right.
garbage. And I'm like, you're not listening. And then he'll be like, okay, I'm sorry. And then he'll sit and he'll focus in. So sometimes we just have to model the behavior and then
Mhm.
gently remind our partners. And one thing definitely for sure is, I don't know if you guys do this, but having check-ins
Mhm.
Hmm.
where it is just me and you, and we're focused on each other, and we're talking about the things that matter. Because again, if somebody been at work all day and maybe it's not a good time to talk about it,
Mhm.
but if you have check-ins, hey, we know we about to talk about whatever it is we need to talk about or want to talk about, and we're focused on each other. We're doing it phone free, TV free.
Mhm. That is
Yeah, that
definitely
time.
needed.
Yeah, that time is really because that's what you're doing in that time. Nothing else. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Mhm.
full focus on being present. Like this is whatever you need to get out, talk about, express. You have my undivided and vice versa. So, and
Mhm.
all those things. It's the intentionality behind it, scheduling and being, making sure that those, just like a date night. You know what I mean? It's the same
Mhm.
thing. You know what I mean? And maybe
Mhm.
your date night could include the check in. But yeah, those things they've been very helpful. Very helpful.
Very
Mhm.
helpful. And I know that I want the thing that Antonio and I really talk about all the time is understanding that we don't know what we're doing. Like
At
people
all.
like we like to feel like we know what we're doing as grown-ups, but every day that comes, you have to go, this is a new day. How in the
Mhm.
hell? I've never been successfully married before, right?
Jeez.
Mhm.
This is my attempt at being successfully married. And every day that is in front of me is a brand new day. So you don't know.
Mhm.
That's right.
And so being able to be open to knowing that you don't know. And I
Yep.
think it's when we get all comfortable and thinking we know what we're doing, that's when it
That's
goes
right.
left. That's when it goes left.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. That's very true. We I know it's funny you say that because I was thinking earlier, like for the listeners, I know I reference our relationship a lot, but I don't. It doesn't come from a space or a place of like, hey, do it like me and my. That's not my heart, my intention. I've been with both of us have been very well versed in what does not work and what we
Mhm.
don't want to get ever in life. You know what I'm saying? So the things that we know to be true and we know that work because we love people. You know what I mean? And we want to essentially our hearts. We want to see everybody be able to thrive and be able to have the healthiest of relationships. You know what I mean? So the things that we
Mhm.
know that we've done that have been successful, we don't. We're not gatekeepers. You know what I'm saying? Like this
Mhm.
information is, now at the end of the day, you take what you can, and if it applies, you
Hey,
apply it, and if you don't, you let it
let it
fly.
fly.
That's
You
Let
know
it
what I
it.
fly.
mean? But
That's it.
but yeah, we most certainly we every day we're learning something. Every day we're learning
Every day.
something new about ourselves. But I think the thing that puts us in position to be able to do it is we wake up every day with the openness, like she said, to be able to do it. It's not like, hey, you can't tell me shit. You know what I mean? I can't learn
Right.
shit. No, we don't.
Right.
We don't operate like that because we can learn something from anything. That's how I roll. You know what I mean? I can learn
Mhm.
something from anybody or anything.
At any
So
time. And we are
anytime.
always open. And we so much don't want to I don't want to be divorced again because it's
Right.
so dead. And so we keep that on the forefront of like just like playing a basketball game. They got the finals. Like you got to be hungry for success.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mhm.
so that in that hunger, you pulling out all the stops. So man, it is 11:01. I'm going to say this for tonight. The last tip is drop the stereotypes, embrace the person. Not every man avoids emotions and not every woman overtalks. Pro tip, get curious about your partner. Get curious about your partner. Everybody's evolving. Your sales are not the sales that you had 7 days ago. Like you're a
Mhm.
new person, really, literally all the time. And so your partner is a new person. You're a new person. So get curious. Don't
Mhm.
fall
Mm-hmm.
into what uh what is the word? Complacency.
Routine,
Oh, that
habit.
yeah. Habit, routine, complacency. That's
Do
good.
not
Mm-hmm.
fall into that. I don't care how long you've been together or not been together. They are new people every day, and so are you. And with that,
This session is no longer being recorded. The recording has started.
oops, um, they're new people, and so treat it like a new person. When you look at your partner, if you feel like rolling your eyes when you see them come in the room, you got to go in for some diagnostic investigation because that is the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
So you should see them as, you might not be all fresh and puppy love, but what is it new that I can know about this person? What's new? What can I do? How can I serve this person? You know?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining. Soulful Tori, you are absolutely welcome to come on this show anytime. It is
Oh,
great
well,
having you
thank you.
on here. Thank you, all of our listeners, everyone who was here who didn't say anything. I see you, and I appreciate your support.
Yeah.
It means everything to me that people come on here every Wednesday and come and support my show. And that means a lot to me. And so I appreciate it. Join us next Wednesday on the Be Lifetime Radio Show, where we will be diving into new topics. We get down deep and dirty because we want everybody to, like Antonio said, we would like everybody to be happy. We want everybody to thrive and live and be happy. If
Yeah.
that's all for tonight, anybody, what's our show for tomorrow? What's the Hilltop? What's going on the Hilltop tomorrow?
DJ Sean.
Just breaking a young R&B artist named Slay Boogie. Breaking his album record tomorrow, and my cousin Miracle Thomas breaking her single for Friday. She'll be on, and then the second half of the show are going to be Almighty Force Brothers, old school hip hop, and then with the Clientele Brothers. They got a new song. I'm gonna be dropping it tomorrow night as well on the Hilltop Radio Show. Yeah.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. And you can always listen to the Hilltop Radio Show at thehilltopradioshow.org. If you don't want to call in, you can always listen to it live. Hit that live button at the top, the Hilltop Radio Show. Boy, if you've been with us from the beginning, we are going places. We are going places, and we are glad that you are joining along.
Oh yeah.
Anybody want to say anything? Any last words before we?
Yeah, I just want to say, you don't have to hang the board up. Just keep it on. I'm gonna stay on for a minute to fix it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna sign off. I found this communication song. If y'all got a few more minutes to listen to this, it's hilarious. We'll see you next Wednesday.
But I think we should leave them with a song about communication.
All right, Amy's gonna
I
do
think
a
it's
song?
a really good way to round this show out, to close it down to a song about communication.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think so. Go ahead.
Well, we're both going to be in it. It's for both of us to do.
It's like the minivan thing?
Yeah, except for when it's your turn, I will point to you and you'll know your part. Okay? It'll be good. It'll be like fun and improv-y, and
All right,
let's do
so
like a
what-
communication song.
I like
Yeah.
this. You like this?
Yeah, that's
All
going
right,
to be fun.
So what am I going to do?
I'm going to point to you and you'll know your part.
Okay.
Just wait, hang tight,
All
and
right.
we'll get to you, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Communication song.
Yes.
Ironically, have never discussed it. But we're gonna do it.
It's
Here
going to
we
be
go.
good. Okay.
Okay.
Why don't you listen?
Can I just stop you
Yes.
quick?
Yeah.
Why don't you listen? That is a terrible way to start a song.
It wasn't very nice that you just said that.
I'm just saying, if I'm driving down the road and I hear "Why don't you listen," I'm changing the channel. I mean, every guy in here is like, "That's going to end badly," you know.
I don't think they were. I think they were just listening to the song.
I
All right.
got my hand to the pulse of
All right, I got it.
RMCC here.
I got it. Let me try again.
Okay.
One more time. Here we
Beautiful.
go. Okay. Why don't you listen?
All right. Am I going to be in this?
Yes,
Well, I thought
you're
we agreed
in it.
to
It's
take
not
that
your-
out. I thought we agreed.
We
like,
didn't agree to
we
take
talked
it out.
about it.
No, I listened to what you had to say,
Yeah.
and then I went ahead and did what I was going to do anyway.
That's a marriage.
Just let me finish the phrase. It'll make more sense when I get to the end. Okay?
Well, let me just
Then
go
it'll
on
be-
record
Uh-huh.
as saying that we object to the "Why don't you listen" part of the song.
Okay, objection
Okay.
noted.
Have at it.
One more time.
Have at it.
Why don't you listen? It makes it hard to tell you what to do.
What kind of song is this? It's very passive aggressive.
Really? No.
I just think it's very pretty, the music, but the words are kind of jabby.
Why don't you give in?
Yeah.
I won't give up till you do. Let's do this my way.
No choice.
I know in time you'll see I'm right. We shouldn't fight this fight again. 'Cause I'm gonna win.
I don't think I'm in the song.
I just need to hear you say it won't take long if you could lay aside your pride and admit you're Help me, ladies. Wrong. Thank you.
How do you know the song?
They're married, honey. They all know this song.
This is really weird. I didn't know that. That's really...
Go ahead. It's your part.
Oh, my turn now. Okay, go ahead. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Rhymes with wrong. What's that? Is it chicken? It's a bird.
I told you you'd know his part.
I am ready to pounce now.
You ready now? You ready? All right. You know the rules now. Can't go to sleep if there's a fight. And I've had my coffee. I'm prepared to stay up all night until you admit I'm... Thanks for finishing that up for me, ladies.
You guys have been a fantastic audience. Thank you for coming out tonight. One more time for Amy Barnes. Can you give her a nice round of applause?
Good night, everybody.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Good night.
Good night.
Like, that shit was wild.
They were-
We're gonna have to do something like that on our ending show.
Yes. Yes.
Something hilarious.
That's hilarious. Hey, listen. There's nothing that beats the YouTube converter to the MP3.
Oh yeah. Trying
Mhm.
to get. I got Tory hipped on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Everything, anything you want, everything you want, you can get it.
I love it.
Now you know, like if you try to upload an MP3 and it comes back error or something like that, all you do is convert MP3 to MP3 and then do it again and it'll work.
Oh, I just switched. I got like 5 MP3 converter programs, and I just